Amy, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited to have you here. I watched you perform at an event, and honestly, within the first 5 minutes, I was like, this person needs to be on the podcast.
That's really nice. Thank you so much.
You're so cute. So before we hit record, you're like, yeah, I'm actually more shy than anything, which I would not have gotten from you up on stage. You're such a presence.
Well, I appreciate that, but yes, painful, probably painfully shy to a fault. Uh, yeah, put me in like that crowd. That's probably like at the beginning, you saw me in the back or like in the other room. Like, yeah, keep my
Yeah.
distance. I'm trying to be better about it though, of like interacting but there's also like you got to feel like for me, like I need to feel that energy, like there's a safety component of it, of like, do I feel safe in this environment to be authentic and be able to like interact and stuff. But that event that you saw me at, that was a pretty incredible event. So that was a cool one. I wasn't sure what to expect there, and I was just completely just blown away at the just, you can feel the energy of like all these women, and there's a few men there too, but like just of support, and like the vibration was just incredible. Incredible. I left there like driving home, like up here, it was like, yeah, this is like I need to be in more environments of performing like this, so that it just continues to feel that ripple of like, we're taking care of each other, we're lifting up the world, and blah blah blah. I mean, all the stuff that I know, but until you're in it and you feel it, like, it's hard to explain.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. But that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? Is the energy, because you felt so in alignment with all of that energy. And so it allowed you to be your best self.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So amazing. I have to say, I've never had a comedian on the show before. And so as I was thinking about, this conversation coming up, and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea where this conversation's even going to go. And so as we're starting out, I think the best place to start is the way I kind of start with everyone, which is looking back at your PhD in life, everything you've been through to get to this point now. How'd you get here? What made you say, I want to be a comedian and I'm painfully shy, but I'm going to go for it anyway?
I love that you said the PhD, because when I do speaking engagements at like colleges and stuff, I always say that my PhD, it's like my personal history degree. So I love that you said that. What made me get started? I loved comedy in high school, and I grew up watching VH1 Stand Up Spotlight with Rosie O'Donnell, right? And every Saturday night you watch that half hour, and I was completely drawn to it, but didn't know why. And then fast forward, I used to be a very overweight teenager. I was like nearly 300 pounds, tortured, right? In high school, I grew up in high school in the 90s. So you can imagine what that felt like, struggling with my sexuality, all the things. And when I graduated high school, like nearly 300 pounds, like no self-esteem or anything. And then shortly after that, I had lost 130 pounds, really like, and that is completely different, right? Like when you go from being overweight to normal size, however you want to call it, you recognize that out in the world, you're treated differently. Whether we like it or not, you're treated differently. And that really kind of like blew my mind, because I didn't understand why people were treating me different, looking at me differently, because I still felt like that was that same person inside. Fast forward to now, that gave me some confidence of like, I'm moving throughout the world. I had a little bit more confidence, gave me the opportunity to like go fulfill maybe some dreams. I started doing some modeling, and then it like fulfilled my dream of wanting to become a sitcom star. And so I took a stand-up comedy class. I took an improv class first. Wasn't my thing, but I met somebody in the improv class that was like, Amy T, you've got to try stand-up comedy. I think you'd be really good at it. And I'm like, I don't know. So we took this class together, And, 7 weeks later, I'm out performing my very first 5-minute set, and I was the opening comic, and there's like 130 people in the room. And when I got that first laugh, I remember distinctly 21 years ago of like, I felt the world open up, like just glitter shined, angels sang, rainbows. Like I couldn't articulate it 21 years ago now, but I know that like, oh, I'm meant to do this. I don't know why or whatever. And then I just chased that high, like constantly. I just knew like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And it also led me down some dark places as well. It's a funky business to be in. You're in nightclubs and bars 4 or 5 nights a week. My painfully shy personality used alcohol as a crutch, and that led me down some dark paths. But also as a blessing in disguise of being able to get the help that I needed for my mental health, etc. But without a doubt, I can't shake the fact that even though the industry, brought me down a dark path, I think the universe was like, no, I need you to do this so that you heal and go here. And then also like, it also gave me the story and the purpose and of like why, like my comedy got better, right? Like now I'm sober. I have an idea about my mental health. And now I'm like able to like use this platform of comedy and being able to speak to the masses about mental health, substance use, and reduce the stigma. So like the universe gave me like maybe a setback, but to propel me forward and be a much better, more authentic human being. So I don't, and I'm not mad at the journey. Definitely, like I have this mantra before I go on stage every time. It's like, thank you, Great Spirit, for the journey, my story, and my success every time. Like, so now that's it.
I feel like that sums it up, right? Thank you for the journey. Thank you for that sums it up, because if we don't go on the journey, how do we know how to help people? How do we, and comedy is your vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And what's the shortest distance between two people? They say laughter is the shortest distance between two people. Victor Borges, right? So if you can make somebody laugh, then you're automatically connected in that way. And now you're able, yeah, it just opens up. It just opens up so much more. And being able to talk about subjects like substance use and mental health with a little bit of humor really relaxes people. In a way that they're able to open and receive it, and they're not like stuck in like maybe some shame cycle or stigma that they think that they know what it is or whatever the reason. But when you're able to kind of just crack that first joke and kind of make fun of myself, I'll use myself as the example of myself of like my story with it and crack some jokes about it, it really eases the uncomfortableness of the topic that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're able to laugh at yourself, it gives the other person permission to laugh at their own self and not take themselves so seriously.
Absolutely. And when I first I always go back to like um before I got sober. And so sobriety is 14 years ago. And like when going through that journey, comedy actually helped me on the journey because I was able to like write about it, right? And it was like therapy to be able to talk about what's going on and write and laugh about it for my own self as well. Like this is some crazy nonsense that happened here. So
That's such a polite way to say it. This is some crazy nonsense.
it was something. It was something.
So I just want to, for a moment, circle back to the fact that you lost 130 pounds,
I
right?
did. I did.
And so big props to you, because that's super hard to do. I know from life experience. But you're so right. Like you do get treated differently out in the world, and you treat yourself very differently.
100%. 100%. When you feel good about yourself, it's all the things. And it's like, it stinks that it's like that, but it is like that. And you have to navigate that regardless of whether you like it or not. But it's also gives me an opportunity. Like I've been on both sides. I know both sides.
Yep.
And that 300-pound teenager is still in there with insecurities. And oh man, that is like some formation that, 30 years later is still very, 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 very much real in social situations or whatever. It was definitely formative for sure. That I think it left a mark. I know that.
100%. And you can look back at that 300-pound teenager and then turn and look forward at people who struggle with their weight. And you have more empathy, you have more compassion. And so you're actually able to communicate with those people. And again, to celebrate you, 14 years sober, I mean, you get it, girl. That's amazing.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah. It's funny. Like my wife is amazing. She's a psych nurse. I think you knew that, but she's a psych nurse, and she makes a really big deal about my sobriety. Like every year, however many years I'm sober, that's how many presents I get. And it's like this whole thing. Yeah. It's so fun. So she always jokes like, this is it. This is the last year. I'm not doing this anymore. As it gets more and more. And I was like, well, we don't want to go start back to one, do we? I was teasing. She's like,
It's
when
all
I started this,
honey.
yeah, she'll
It
tease
all
me.
hinges on the gifts.
Yeah, so that's like the motivation. It's not like how healthy and how happy and everything I feel. It's like, what am I getting this year? Just kidding.
I know you're kidding. And that's what's so funny about it all. I mean, that just really points to the importance of having a support system, whether you're trying to get sober or you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to improve your mental health or having
Mm-hmm.
a solid, healthy, supportive network around you is everything.
It really is. It really is. Like when my day job is, I'm on fun employment this summer, but for many years I worked in dual diagnosis treatment and recovery as peer and recovery support for individuals like myself 14 years ago, or trying to find and navigate mental health and substance use. And that is it, the strength in numbers, right? Like I would say I did it alone. I did not have that support system because I had burned so many bridges, so I needed to do it alone. My friends, I had burned the business relationships and personal relationships and stuff. So like when I hit that rock bottom and I'm just like, looking out, like, what the hell do I do now? From the sobriety part for me was like, there was some ego in it of like, people didn't think I'd do it. Right. Amy T, you can't. Oh, really? So one day turned into two. And then I also thought like maybe it would get an ex-girlfriend back if I stayed sober. And then it just became like, God, this actually kind of feels good. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I'm sitting with my own self. And this is uncomfortable, and then it started to get easier. Every day got easier. But it was definitely sheer spite that started it. And then 2 months later is when I met my wife now. And then that's when you talk about the support system, where somebody just was able to like get me from the beginning. And I had like a fresh slate, like there's somebody that didn't know me from before, while I was drinking, like just, somebody that just knew just this raw, open wound of a human. And she was there for it. And then as you start healing yourself from the inside out, that support network comes clear, right? Like you start attracting the people that are, and I know this is what you do, right? Like, so you start attracting those people, and then you start feeling that energy, and you're like, oh, this fits. Oh, okay. And then more people and more better opportunities start coming around, et cetera, et cetera. I just had a bunch of guys that I do comedy with. They're all newer in the business that we met because I started this like mental health meetup group for comedians, because we're all a bunch of jokesters. So when we're out and about, we're always on, right? But then like you go home and you're like, you have a bad set and like you're feeling, shitty about yourself or whatever it is. And you're stuck in that. And all of us, like, somebody that's got some sort of mental health something. And so we recognize that, we were losing individuals in our community to completing suicide or substance use and all these things. And we're like, wait a minute, we're not even taking care of ourselves. So I met this core group of guys that we kind of just check in with each other, and like the vibration, like you can just feel it, of like that energy of like we're lifting each other up, we're not competing with each other, we want to actually make sure that we're okay, and we don't have to be in the club being on and ourselves, we're actually vulnerable and, you know, crying or whatever's coming up. So it's like, yeah, like thanks universe for like just continuing to keep giving me gifts.
Yeah, so well said. And comedy is a traditionally masculine environment, and it's a lot of masculine energy. And there's not a lot of room for true vulnerability and sensitivity. And, because you're laughing at all of it, you have to pretend like none of it actually bothers you. So the fact that not only you recognize that, but have created a space for that, that is life changing.
And that's what we're hoping, right? Like just so we don't lose another one of us to suicide or whatever, or in like just checking on with each other, because we are in an environment that there's a lot of substance use. I know people tried to warn me along the way and I wasn't listening, right? Like I can look back and be like, oh, it's just like Friday and Saturday nights. I'm not, you know, and no, that's just one time or whatever. And I wasn't listening. But if you can maybe reach somebody like, hey, I'm noticing something, and you know, not that you're trying to be a gatekeeper or anything, but just out of just sheer like human connection of like, I care about you, and I just want to make sure you're okay. And maybe it is that you're just having a good time tonight, but whatever.
Right. And someone who understands, because you're in that space. And so you understand that space. Whereas someone coming from a different, I would say, career, or, a different business, might not understand the same things. And so reaching out from a place of, listen, not only have I been there, but I understand what your life is like in this environment. That makes all the difference. And that allows you to kind of enter in through the back door, right? Because you don't have to, I, I can't even describe what it is that I'm thinking, but not almost like lay the groundwork for the conversation, but you don't have to try to get someone to listen. You
Right.
already have created that container. And so you can go right in through the back door and skip all the pleasantries.
Right. Right.
Yeah, none of it's pleasant. So it's so interesting to me that as a comedian who's laughing at yourself and all the things you've been through and whatever, you're creating such potent change in the world.
Oh, thanks. I think like what I think about in the last 14 years is just like every day waking up being the best version of myself for the world, right? Like I don't want to go to Dunkin' Donuts and they make a mistake on my coffee and then somebody yells at the Dunkin' Donut. Like I'm not going to be the person that like they didn't. I know they didn't come to work today to mess up my order, you know. Like so,
Right.
why am I gonna like? So I never want to be like the reason for somebody else's bad day or anything. So I try to just yeah, I'm full of gratitude all the time of like however small it is. Like if it's raining, I'm like, I'm so glad it's raining because now I don't have to water the lawn or my flowers. Or like, you know what I mean? Like whatever little thing I can find in gratitude, which just continues to just make bigger and bigger things. But yeah, just trying to be like the best version of myself that I can every day.
Beautiful. And that's where it all starts, is with gratitude. If you want to manifest anything, you have to start from a position of gratitude. And you can feel like your life sucks and
Mm-hmm.
everything is terrible and you've burned down your life, right? But if you can just grasp onto one tiny piece of gratitude, it shifts that energy. And that is the building block from where you start to build.
It's so funny. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that for me, like when people are like, Amy, how did you do it? I'm like, just gratitude. I just started with like the smallest little thing of like, oh, I took a shower today. Nailed it. good for me. And when I try to, like, when I work with the individuals that I support, you know, they're just not enough space of like grasping that yet. Maybe sometimes like it's hogwash, or they were grateful for one thing one day and see it didn't work. This stuff happened yesterday and now tomorrow, like I'm like, it doesn't work like that. But like if you can just get them to find that one small thing of like, you know, you hit all the green lights on your way to work and you weren't late. It's awesome. Like just find that smallest thing, because it does perpetuate more, and like, and then eventually you start seeing the little things. But it's hard, and it's a habit. Can't just do it one day. It is not a one day thing. It is a habit that has to be practiced every day throughout the day.
Yeah. And the more ridiculous the thing is that you can start having gratitude for, the funnier it becomes and the more lighthearted it becomes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah. So I want to talk about the events that you have. Your business, is it etc.? Tell me a little bit about your business that you've been building.
So experimental comedy therapy, which is ECT, which is also the acronym for electroconvulsive therapy, which is that play on, because I think we all could use a little shock therapy and humor our humor. So that was where the play came from, was a playing off the ECT and using like experimental and highlighting the mental part of us. And so really focusing on giving back to the community, focusing on mental health and advocacy and awareness, and talking about it so that we could reduce the more. It has grown since I've started, you know, like 10 years ago since I started ECT. We definitely are talking about it more, and not enough, but getting better. We need more resources and things like that. But it also, I think, talking about it and building community, even from a grassroots of energy, like you say, definitely makes that. So that's where that kind of started from, and then being able to like talk to colleges and college age students in hospital, going into hospitals and talking to people on an inpatient program. Like I do a lot of work with the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and then being able to create shows and events that will benefit organizations maybe in our smaller communities that aren't whatever that they need. The answer is always yes. And for me, like a lot of times what I will try to do is promote a chemical free event, is what I call it, so that there's not substances at the event, so that we can start showing that we don't need that all the time. You can go out and have a good time and go out and laugh, and you can do it with seltzer or juice, or so that it's a more inclusive environment for families and other people that are in recovery. That, you know, I know a lot of places that I perform at, people don't come because there are bars in the environment. But one of the things that was big for me when I work with individuals that I support is that I would take them to my shows and be like, you can't hide from this. Like, you can't go to the movies, you can't go bowling, you can't go anywhere without it. So you need to learn how to live with it and navigate it. So also being able to show that you can have a good time, even if you're around it. You don't have to be, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to bother you, but we got to push through those things. So also a little bit of everything,
Yeah. I it feels to me like, especially since COVID, before that for sure, but especially since COVID, alcoholism, the normalizing drinking has just gone off the charts. Like, it just feels like everything has to involve alcohol now.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was during COVID so much as that we watched each other more, because
Yeah.
we were right, like you really got into people's lives because they were posting about themselves, because we were all locked down. So you got like a glimpse, and I remember seeing that a lot of like actually watching my friends going, do I need to like check in, because this is not healthy? And then you're like, well, and then you start making excuses for it, like, well, this is an unprecedented time, right? Like, this isn't going to last forever. And then I also saw like a shift during COVID of people like taking a step back of like, whoa, right? Like now we started dry Januaries or sober October or whatever. Some of those like trendier things that people started recognizing that they did feel healthier. But there is just a normal thing of like everything, right? Like, you know, moms bringing their mom juice to the kids' soccer. It's
Yeah.
just, it's, it's mind blowing. But, and it's so like, I don't want to, I'm not shitting on anybody that drinks. That's not my thing. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it really does become like we don't do that. We don't do anything without it. Like for a long time, I lost a lot of my friends because they weren't calling me because that's what they did. And it's like, well, like I still like to go out to eat. But it became like a smoke and mirrors, right? Like if I'm not drinking, it kind of like made them turn inward. So you know, that filtered itself out in on its own. But like now it's like I'll call my friends and be like, you want to go for an ice cream? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go do something like, I don't know, you want to go antiquing or something? Like, let's just go do something that doesn't have to like center around that. And not because I have a hard time being around it. It just becomes complacent or something. There's just so much more that we could do, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. It's just complacency. I think the more we're around it, the more it's normalized, the more, I have drinks sometimes and fine, but I don't feel like I need to have it. On the other side of that, conversely, for me, it's food, right?
Mm,
Like, snacks at night. Oof, I feel like I have to have them. So it
right.
doesn't matter what the thing is that's your vice, it's not allowing that thing to take over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could go on a food. We could do a whole nother podcast on a food thing.
I know,
Um,
right?
but yeah, like it's weird. And then you like just wonder, like I look at it and I wonder how like comfortable people are. Like, do they recognize? Are they happy, or has it become such a habit that they just don't know how to get out of the cycle? I don't know how people afford it. I don't know how people
Right.
afford going out. And seriously, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, no shade by any means. Like, do you, if you're happy and you're healthy and this makes you, if you're happy, that's all I care about. I don't care. But
That's it.
uh,
I mean, that's 100% it. And if you need the support to get healthier or to get healthy, then you're there and
mhm,
you're an advocate and you're an ally. And that's amazing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I feel like you're a perfect example of turn around and look at where you've been and how can I use where I've been to shine a light for people who need it moving forward. And so, first of all, in my mind, when I said, is it etc., in my mind, it was ETC, not ECT.
Mhm.
Um, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You do offer dry events and you do encourage dry events, and you will still work at events that are serving alcohol. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I can't in this industry. I can't get away. I would never. I wouldn't survive if I tried to just do dry events. But if I get have the opportunity to produce an event for somebody, we talk about it like what's the event for. So like I worked with Amesbury Pact the last couple of years, and we just put on a whole thing. And then one of the local restaurants in town, like they have mocktails, so they have a whole business of mocktails. They came in, they donated, they set up a bar so that they, and they were like, yeah, it was super cool. And it looks like one of these like mojito type things that you would see. So like even so it was still a great time. And you know, there's like 70, 80 people at this event having a blast, but we're particularly promoting it for the all around health, mental health, substance use health, all of that stuff. So yes, I cannot get away in this industry of working without it, because again, like you know, I'm doing like Chunky's Cinema Pub this weekend, like movies, bowling alleys, they're everywhere. And that's the, people do want to go out and have a couple of drinks when they go out. That's a lot. That is the lifestyle of our. And I also wanted to tell you, like ECT is also the acronym of how I try to live my life: be responsible for the energy I bring in this world, and practice compassion and tolerance. So that it was like a full thing.
I have chills all over my body because that's so beautiful. And that truly is the energy that you emanate. Again, immediately, I was like, oh, yeah, I need to know her. Within 5 minutes, I was like, So I was definitely drawn in. So my question then becomes, what is the best way that we as listeners, we as people who are looking in at your story can support you? Is it, through scheduling events with you? Is it through bringing you into outreach places? Tell me what's the best way we can support you.
That would be amazing, right? Like if you have an organization that would, directly connect to like mental health or substance use or anything actually, right? That we could like just, if somebody can hear me talk and hear my humor, it's gonna touch somewhere, and then I can always tailor it too, right? If you want a little bit more mental health or substance use or whatever. But yeah, I think that it is like getting the conversation going, and then like that connection through laughter just continues that ripple effect, and that lifts everybody up. So yeah, and I'm always like, the answer is always yes, especially for any kind of organization. I'm, I've done everything, like domestic violence, right? Like, of course, like the answer is yes. Like, how am I able to do what I love to do that I actually need to do to survive, right? Like, this is like how I put one foot in front of the other every day. How do I get to do that? And then also be able to give back at the same time. So it's like this win-win thing. Like, it's like, oh, MET, you're getting paid to do this. I know I am, but it's a win-win all the way around. Like, I need to do this as well.
Absolutely. And the beauty of what you do and the vehicle that you've chosen to do it in is that people don't have to say, I need help with my mental health. They don't have to be in that place. They can just be out for a night out, and something that you say through comedy, you're able to put your message out there that just strikes a little nerve, that just gives them a spark of a inspirational thought that says, oh, I could do this differently. I could be different. There is something else. There is a different way. And so, again, it's like going in through the back door. You don't have
Mhm.
to lay out the red carpet. You're meeting people where they are.
It's funny, like 14 years ago when I started writing about, being diagnosed with bipolar and sobriety and stuff, it was for me, right? Like, it was for me to just get it out there and talk. And it was also like to be able to way of like, I'm apologizing like to masses of people that I didn't know I'd hurt along the way, right? So it's like, all right, I'm just going to own it. I'm going to have this accountability and be like, yep, I was an asshole. I did this. But look at me now, because your best change behavior, the best apology is change behavior. So I'm going to continue to change my behavior. And then when I started talking about it to like work through it and work through the stuff on myself, it's when people started coming up to me, because people weren't really talking about, like 15 years ago, they weren't talking about mental health on stage. And I'm like hitting bipolar disorder. Like, I'm just nailing all the stuff, and people weren't talking about it at that point. And then people started coming up to me on stage like, thanks for talking about that, my daughter, my uncle, my nephew, like. And I'm like, every time, like literally every time somebody, I'm like, there's something to this here. And I wasn't doing it for that. It just happened to be happening like that. And I'm like, oh. And so you're right, it's like that backhanded way of giving you an education and breaking down that stigma, without making you uncomfortable.
And giving the person permission to talk about it themselves or to acknowledge it
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Absolutely.
You make
Absolutely.
me want to laugh. You make me want to cry. You make me want to hug you, all the things. Um, as we're kind of closing up, any, I don't know, last minute, like one big tip or anecdotal something that you can share? I know
Hmm.
I'm totally putting you on the spot because we've talked about so many things.
I think one of the things is like, it's just don't stop growing. Don't stop growing. Don't stop learning. Don't stop being open. That's something I'm like, I took the summer off this year to just kind of like figure out what's next. And I really want to like push like comedy through. And I was recently diagnosed with autism. And now that's like a new toy that I'm kind of like figuring out at 48 years old, of like, like 48, and so I guess like just not stop, just don't stop growing, don't stop. And it's okay to evolve and change, and You don't have to stay the same person. That's like, give yourself permission to try new things and try other things on. And yeah, it,
So good.
be
So
kind.
wise.
Be kind. Go out in the world. Don't be the reason for somebody else's bad day. Like, take a pause before you react. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that sometimes, but I definitely, the habit of taking a pause before I react or whatever has definitely become much easier. It has made my life much easier. That's for sure.
Again, it's a practice.
Yeah.
Life is a practice. Life is a dress rehearsal, right?
You just keep
Yeah.
one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And just don't take yourself so seriously.
Really, because nobody's gonna remember it.
Amy, this was just such a great conversation. I know we talked about serious things here today, but you truly are hilarious.
Thank you.
And I want everyone who's listening to find you, to find a show, to book you, all the things. So I'm going to drop your website in show notes. Can you just give everyone that and the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so you can find me at experimentalcomedy.com or amytcomedian.com. It's probably easier. It takes you both of them take you to the website. All my socials are ECT Amy T, Facebook, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to play around with the TikTok and try to get comfortable in my skin to do that right now. So that's my new thing that I've been doing.
The first thing is going to be to stop calling it the TikTok,
Right, right. The weed, the TikTok, right? I know. The
right?
age.
The Facebook.
Kidding me. Yeah. Kidding me. Kidding me. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for lifting up the collective unconscious and bringing high vibes into the world.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.